This year, I got my dream BTO, a prime 2-room flat at Mount Pleasant Crest, balloted on my very first try. Then, I walk away from it. A lot of people think I'm making a mistake. And yes, I did make a mistake. My mistake was not in reading the regulations properly before applying. Here's the reaction I got. You're so lucky, and yeah, why are you wasting it? And they're right. In October 2024, the application rates for 2-room BTO flats reached a median of 26.3. So 26 people chasing after one flat. It has since dropped down to a median of 7.1. In Singapore, about 9 in 10 resident household owns the flat that they live in. For most of the time, the question was never, are you going to get your flat? But rather, when are you getting your flat? If you're Singaporean, chances are you spend a lot of time thinking about housing. In the recent years, it has become a hot topic for debate. $1 million HDB flats keep making the headlines, but they are the exception, not the norm. So, what exactly is happening to our public housing markets? Depending on who you ask, Singapore housing is either still affordable or getting more out of reach. Our ex-PM Lee says that every HDB will become a valuable nest egg for retirement. PM Wong says that the government will continue to make public housing affordable for Singaporeans. Jamus Lim raised concerns that the graduates are entering a market that feels increasingly out of reach. And Hazel Phua argues that the wages are not keeping pace with the resale prices. Our Minister Desmond Lee said that most of the resale flats remain affordable and cautioned buyers to be prudent. He called the run-out cyclical, tied to a COVID-era supply crunch rather than a permanent structural shift. Just exactly who is right? And what does all this have to do with me giving out my BTO? I'm going to focus on the 3-room resale flats, the category I was giving out my BTO for. In 2019, the medium 3-room resale flat sold for about $283,000. And by 2025, that had climbed to about $445,000. In a span of 6 years, that's a 57% increase. And that's a lot. Over the same 6 years, the median household incomes went from $7,990 to $10,088, a rise about 26%. Pay went up, it just didn't go up as much as the resale prices. So when you put those two numbers together, you get a ratio of 2.7 times the annual income in 2019 as compared to the 3.4 times by 2025. To recap, Minister Desmond Lee says that this recent years is a reflection of the supply and demand imbalance during the COVID era. Of the buyers who collected their keys in 2024, 8 out of 10 of them could service their loan through CPF alone. So our system is still kind of working even though resale prices are increasing. But recently, the resale price index actually fell. 0.1% dip in the first quarter of 2026, then another 0.3% in the second. First time in almost 7 years. The last dip was in 2019, before COVID sent prices on their long climb. However, the index is still sitting close to its all-time high. A record 412 flats were sold over $1 million. Two things can be true at once. The market has cooled slightly, but it is still sitting at its peak. We might just be seeing the first crack of the supply-demand imbalance. But what's going to happen from here onwards? And how did we even get here in the first place? To answer that, we have to go back all the way to the year 1964. Before 1964, HDB flats were rental only. You could not buy one. Then, in February 1964, the government launched the Home Ownership for the People scheme. It heavily subsidized the flats for families earning less than $800 a month. Lee Kuan Yew was very transparent with that rationale. If everyone owns a home in the nation, the country will be more stable. Owning a home is having a stake in the nation. Parents whose sons have to go through national service would have something of their own for their sons to defend. In the 60s, it's not a peaceful time in Singapore. Singapore was fighting communism, civil unrest, tension in Malaysia, and confrontation from Indonesia. As we all know, in 1965, Singapore achieved independence. Prior to 1971, HDB owners who wish to sell their flat have to return them to HDB at their original price, plus the depreciated cost of improvement. In 1971, the resale market opened up. Guardrails were still put in place to prevent HDB from becoming a vehicle of speculation. These things still apply today. MOP, debarment period, and resale levy. In 1990s, they started upgrading the HDBs. The government upgrading schemes started to be rolled out as a way to continuously maintain and increase the value of the assets of Singaporeans. That framing is still the official one. In March 2023, then Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong puts it plainly. Your HDB will be both a good home for you and your family and a valuable nest egg for retirement. But a nest egg concept only works if it keeps growing. At the current price, it's honestly very scary to think about it for the future generation. Owning a home is still very much about having a stake in the nation. Its original intent set in 1964. For me, having a home is somewhere that I can find comfort at the end of the day. After cycling through the different countries, I really want to come back and grow my roots in my home country, at least for the next decade or so. Having a house that can grow your net worth and help to fight inflation is a good thing. But I also think we are at a point where the system is working far too well. How long can a public housing market be affordable on entry and yet become a valuable asset at the time of exit? And what happens when it starts to price people out of the market? I still think our housing system is beautifully designed. One flaw is that we can't put a brake on it that easily. When you allow the free market to happen, it is difficult to put in an intervention. What the government can do is to introduce barriers into the supply and demand cycle. And with that, we are pulled back to my BTO. The fine print that I didn't read. In a prime or plus flat, you can never rent out the whole unit, not even after your MOP. For spare bedrooms, HDB only allow bedroom rentals for 3-room flats or bigger. Mine was a 2-room flat. Put this together, a 2-room prime flat can never get a single cent of rent, even after MOP. Nothing for the whole of the 99 years lease. I am still growing my net worth, so I need that cash flow. My CPF is not just sitting there stagnant. I'm also investing my CPF. I need to work my money. And for my own selfish personal reason, I also want a place of my own. My goal ultimately is to have the option to be gallivanting around the world when I reach 50. In order to achieve that, I can't forsake any means of cash flow right now. Even if I am going to sell away my Mount Pleasant Crest BTO flat, there are also new added regulations. Mount Pleasant Crest has a subsidy clawback of 12%. There is also a pay ceiling on the potential buyers, $14,000 for families and $7,000 for singles. Call me short-sighted, but even in 30 years' time, I don't think that it is fair for anyone to pay above $400,000 for a 2-room public housing. Since 2019, prices have consistently outgrown the structural drag of an aging lease. Flats is getting older, but still it's getting more expensive. 2026 back-to-back decline are the first sign that the outgrowing of the lease decay might not hold forever. The nest egg builds on the concept of rising flat prices to combat inflation. It also banks on another fact that the resale prices remains affordable so that it doesn't lock out the next buyer. This could be achieved if the entry remains reasonable or wages continue to rise. This means market prices have to remain a reasonable ratio of the median annual income, or government might have to start subsidizing even heavier, which ironically that might also drive up prices. So back to the number that actually moved me. My 2-room BTO rental income is essentially zero forever. But a resale 3-room on average could get around a 6.9 to 9% rental yield. So the real comparison was never BTO or a resale as an asset. It was basically what exactly would suit my lifestyle. Would it be $300,000 that I could never recover from, or a possibility of staying at my own place without having to pay a rent? To be honest, walking away from the BTO do feel like a waste. I love the location of the place. It was close to Bukit Timah and to Macritchie Reservoir. I could commute to any workplace in future, and it would have been a place entirely my own. But after evaluating the needs in my life, keeping it would have been a bigger mistake. If housing starts to drift towards a vehicle of speculation, the price increase that has worked so well for the few generation might start getting out of hand. HDB began as a way to give Singaporeans a stake in the country. Over time, it became one of the biggest financial decisions that we have to make. And somewhere along the way, many of us, including me, started to view it more as an investment. Before I give out my BTO, I asked myself these questions. What exactly do I want in my own home? Or am I just looking for potential upside? At the end of the day, having a shelter is a basic need. Essentially, it's a safe roof over our head. Having our own HDB means having our own place to build our life and dream of possibilities. A place where we can call home. I left Singapore to cycle across Southeast Asia, but the bravest decision I made wasn't leaving. It is admitting that the life that I have worked for wasn't the one that I wanted.